Billions to Israel every year. Israel 34 murdered USA. Now, what's that about?
That was the USS Liberty attack in 1967, where Israel purposely tried to sink one of our boats. It was an intelligence ship, the USS Liberty. It was attacked for over 2 hours using napalm initially, 20 millimeter cannon, and I think 40 millimeter cannon also. Many sorties of French Mirage jets that the Israelis bought from France. Tried to put the thing on the bottom. Killed 34 American sailors and wounded scores, I think 151, I believe.
What was the purpose, probably, of that?
There are two schools of thought. Israel has never admitted it was anything but a mistake. But it was a perfectly clear day. Our intelligence apparatus had notified Israel that it was going to have a surveillance ship in the area monitoring the war that was ongoing between Israel and its neighbors in 1967, the Six-Day War. And so they knew it was there. There were low flyover passes from a C-47, an Israeli C-47, with were close enough that the people could see the guy out the side hatch waving and smiling at them, the people aboard the ship. And they've made several passes. There was a clear American flag flying, a huge American flag on the map. There are pictures on the internet with that flag with the Israeli surveillance airplane flying over top. So they knew it was an American ship, and yet they tried to put it on the bottom. The reason being, the two schools of thought are that the United States would attack Egypt, which was in the war against Israel at that time, for Israel's land grab in 1967. They were at war with Egypt, and the plan was to sink the American ship. By the way, these Mirage fighter planes that attacked the ship had no markings. They were blacked out. And it was speculated that it was a black operation, false flag operation that the Egyptians would be blamed for when the ship was sank, and then the U.S. would come to the rescue of Israel.
Now, is that one of the beliefs that they would?
That's one of the beliefs. The other belief is that it was an intelligent ship. We were gathering intelligence. There was a lot of radio traffic and other data on the airwaves that would have exposed Israel's massacre of over 2,000 captured Egyptian prisoners of war in the Sinai Desert. That was a war crime. The Israeli troops couldn't move those prisoners. They had to bonsai up north to the Sinai and protect it from Jordanian troops as they were moving south on Israel from the north. So they didn't have time to adequately take POWs, and they slaughtered them all. This is a war crime under Geneva Convention, and it would have been if that was found out that they did that. It was later found out. Bodies were dug up in the desert.
But no accountability.
But no accountability. Again, because the U.S., every time the international community gathers together at the United Nations to bring charges of these kind against Israel, it is blocked by U.S. veto power at the UN Security Council. And all these over 100 UN resolutions have gone nowhere because the United States alone, in 40 of those cases, with a few quisling allies in other cases, but over 40 where we alone blocked justice being done in the world venue at the United Nations. And it continues to happen. Same thing happened when Israel attacked Gaza. The Goldstone Commission documented numerous war crimes, absolute murder of innocent people, waving white flags with their families. The Israelis herded extended family of over 100 people into one building, held them there overnight, and then shelled that building until they killed almost everybody inside that building. These were documented war crimes, and they were brought before the United Nations, are going to be brought, but the UN blocked it, or the US blocked it with the veto power that we have. And our Congress, all but 36 members, voted to uphold Israel's slaughtering of these civilians.
And most average Americans don't even know any of this.
We haven't a clue about any of it. The problem is our Congress. Almost all of our congressional members are bought by the Israeli and defense lobbies. They're the ones that fill their election coffers so that they can get reelected and establish and maintain their power in our Congress, both houses.
That's going to be a hard thing to stop.
And until people wake up to this reality and then really realize how our world works and the powers behind it, it is going to be a hard thing to do. We're not spreading freedom and democracy anywhere. Many of these wars we've gone to in the Middle East are at the behest of Israel because they don't have enough power, although they have, it's been said, the fourth most powerful military on the planet. That's because they have nuclear weapons, which they have not declared, and they refuse to declare. Israel is the only country on the planet that is allowed to have a hidden nuclear weapons program. They've got more than between 200 and 500 nukes, everything from battlefield tactical nukes that can be fired by artillery to bombs that can be dropped to thermonuclear weapons.
The U.S. probably will support hiding all that and not exposing it.
Time after time after time. These issues are brought up in the international community, and the U.S. says, hey, we're not going to go there, and we don't go there because we've got economic clout and military power to stop the rest of the world from seeing that justice is done against Israel. As Israel continues to encroach on and steal ever more land. These things that they call settlements aren't settlements, they're colonies. And they're being built illegally, again, according to UN law, Geneva Convention for several UN resolutions, Resolution 194, 182, make these acts of encroaching into and building land on bulldozed homes of indigenous people anywhere illegal. Yet Israel does this daily. They're moving people out of their way and growing their state. One of the conditions that Israel was granted statehood at the United Nations was that it allow the refugees that they drove out of the way, the 750,000 people during the war of 90,000 heavily armed Israeli troops against 20,000 Johnny-come-lately Arabs that were underarmed and everything. They call it their war of independence. It wasn't a war of independence. It was a massive bloodbath and slaughter of innocent people they were shoving out of their way. Anyway, the condition that they were granted statehood by the United Nations was that they allow all these people to return to their homes, which is, again, under international law, Fourth Geneva Convention, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all these laws that civil communities in our world hold as high standards, Israel willfully ignores with full U.S. support. No wonder we have people that want to do our buildings harm in this country. It's incredible that people don't know this. But our media is covering it up, and they're not going to tell you. You have to get on the internet and find the truth out for sure. I recommend people get on a great website is ifamericans.knew.com.
Ifamericans.knew.com.
If Americans Knew. Just type in those three words, If Americans Knew, and it'll pop up. A plethora of information, good, solid, from an American journalist that went there for herself to find out what was going on. I don't want to confuse everybody with too many websites.
Yeah, well, that's a good start.
That's a good
We got
start.
enough info right here. And if
Thank
you
you,
don't get
Joe.
it by now,
Thanks for spreading the
help
word,
us.
my friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for being out here.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening.